The thing is, I wasn't actually sure if I should stand up or not because I don't really consider myself an atheist. Didn't make sense. A lot of their answers were just, didn't make sense to me. It was just airy. Just a lot of ambiguous, feel good sort of answers. It's just like, no, that's not what I asked.
Reference point as to what pain is so that you do understand what happiness is.
As I'm drinking the water, I turn around and I look, and there's this fine babe, right? Fine babe, just proper fine. I could see her, and then I could see her soul. That's the best way I could describe it, right? Believer like me, that's what
No.
I feel like
I don't know if you drive, but do you believe your car can do up to 100 miles per hour? Is it just because you've seen it? Is it because you don't know it? You're just gambling. I believe it can. I'm faith.
How do you test that when you can't measure that?
You can. There's
Your
things
whole
like.
concept of religion is based around something.
That's what I'm saying. You're a believer like me, that's what
No.
I feel like atheist or something like that, or there was like dinosaurs millions of years ago. Honestly, from someone who's never been in the West, sounds very mad. The Lord. I'm playing.
This is a spiritual experience, guys. I told you you have it. You have it.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Tito. I'm 23. I'm from East London, from Barking. I currently work in advertising and I have a graduate degree in politics.
Hello, my name is Adisha Otalabi. I am a content creator, performance poet and journalist.
My name's Will, I'm an atheist and I'm a vegan as well.
Hello, my name is Isra and I'm an engineer.
Hi, my name is Sengar. I'm 24 and I'm from South East London. I work in marketing and administration. And yeah, I'm just here to discuss and to see what I got on with everyone, really.
Hi, my name is Kojo Ampadu. I am a content creator on YouTube and also a dating coach. And also, in my spare time, I'm a little bit of a spiritual avenger. Understand?
I am an atheist.
Okay, so question is, why are you guys atheists?
The thing is, I wasn't actually sure if I should stand up or not because I don't really consider myself an atheist. My position has always been that I'm a bit more agnostic towards the existence of, be it a monotheistic or a polytheistic sort of entity. So, like I said, I wouldn't really say that I'm an atheist because I feel as though to say that you're an atheist is quite similar in saying that you do believe in this, you do believe in a creator, in a deity, in the sense that these are both statements of absolutes. And so they convey absolute certainty. I am not absolutely certain that there is a creator, that there is a deity, that there is that omnipotent, omniscient source. I'm also not completely sure that there isn't. And so my position has always kind of been that I'm agnostic to it. I think I do lean more towards the atheist side of the spectrum, but that's just because I don't feel as though I just can't. I've just not been convinced of the existence of deities, to be honest. I understand where people come from and the stories and the narrative arc, etc. Each society and each culture have their own belief system, and everybody's entitled to that. But I'm still not completely convinced. But then again, I won't completely rule it out.
I think for me, it was quite a political argument that drew me away from theism. So obviously, I was raised in a religious household with Christian and Muslim influences. However, like a lot of bad things happened in my childhood that made me question, like if there was a God, why would this be permitted to happen? And as I got older and I learned about different political ideologies, so I think I was introduced to Marxism like 16. I came across the Communist Manifesto. He wrote something about religion being the opiate of the people. And I started thinking about all the ways that religion has been used to control societies, to oppress people, whether it was as a justification for slavery or for all kinds of untold wars and atrocities throughout history. So it made me question, like, so who benefits from this? Like, what is this built on? And how do we know it's not all a lie? And that led me to some philosophical arguments about how can evil exist and everything. And that's what made me question religion to the extent that I became an atheist after doing further reading.
So you're completely atheist?
Only to the, I'm the same as you in terms of I would never give an absolute certainty. If the sky parted and a giant hand reached down like in The Simpsons, like what can I say? But, and I'd be convinced because I could see it. But if it's something I can't see and that there aren't sufficient arguments to even prove exists beyond, there's a quote, something like, if God didn't exist, man would have to create him. Like, a God serves so much function in our society. Like, it makes things easier, it provides a moral compass, it provides, and the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, all these books provide like guidelines for people's lives. So even if he didn't actually, this thing didn't actually exist, it's still convenient. So questioning that led me to atheism, it led me to that, and yeah, I don't have certainty, but you know, you have to think critically.
Yeah, my position is similar. I would say the way I perceive things is more in line with atheism, and it's just me apportioning my confidence to what we can test. In life, you can't be absolutely certain about anything, but my position is that I'm just not convinced that there is a God which is different, or a deity which is different to me making a claim that a God doesn't exist, which is what I think a lot of the misconception that a lot of people believe atheist position is. An atheist position, some people do, but it isn't necessarily that a God doesn't exist. It can be that as an atheist, you're just not convinced that a God exists. So I believe it can lead a bit to agnosticism, but yeah, that's my position. And yeah, for me, it's a story of reading into logic, reasoning, and rationale and philosophy, and looking at maybe from an epistemology whether I have a sound reason to believe that such a claim is correct. And the issue is the God proposition is a claim that's unfalsifiable. So if a claim is unfalsifiable, that means it can't be proven to be false, or true or false in this instance. So the only logical position that you could hold is that you don't know until there's sufficient evidence to believe. So my position is tentative. If there was good evidence to support the notion or the position that a God does exist, then I would change my position. But until then, my position stands.
I think what's really interesting about more so agnosticism is the idea that people have this idea of agnostic people as being, or the position as being almost cowardly, like, why can't you make a decision? Why can't you say, oh, you do believe or you don't? Why can't you just fully commit to something? Personally, for me, I just don't, to me, it's kind of like a funny argument and a statement to make towards and about agnosticism, because I feel like being agnostic, to me, just means that I am still comprehending the scale of my ignorance. And so I know for a fact that what I know of this world is but a drop in the ocean of what there is to know. There is an infinitesimal amount of knowledge and information out there, much of which I am not privy to and I never will be privy to. The study of religion obviously is theism, right? So theologists. So you have theologists who have studied these literatures, who have studied the texts, etc., on very critical levels, right? And even then, they still do not possess the amount of knowledge that I feel is enough to convince anybody of an agnostic or an atheist position to completely commit to the belief and the idea of the existence of a creator. And so that's why I said before that I can't really commit to saying that I'm a full-on atheist, because that would say that I am completely aware of all of the arguments against the creation. I'm completely convinced of all of the arguments against there being an omnipotent and omniscient deity, but then I'm also not completely convinced of the completely religious perspective, because I'm not fully aware of all of the things that goes into religion. And that's not just a religion that I decide to subscribe to. So for example, I grew up in a Christian household, but my knowledge of Christianity, right? If we're talking about, when you're talking about religion, you need to also contextualize history. You need to contextualize etymology, which is obviously the study of word language and language change over time, etc. You need to consider so many different things, right? And within each of those categories, within each of those areas of study, there is mountain loads of knowledge and information for you to take on. Each level, and at each level, your position can change at any given point. Now imagine combining all that there is to know, right? How would you be able to actually say that I'm completely convinced of the creation, of the existence or none thereof of this thing? Like, to me, it just, like, I like being completely certain, and obviously there is a degree of uncertainty to everything, and I understand that. But when it comes to something such as religion, something that can sometimes appear and be presented as so black and white, I just feel like it's very difficult to really, for me personally, to make that stance. You know, there's so many different religions, so many different, and people often, when talking about religion, they talk about Abrahamic religions. So because that's the ones, those are the ones to which they're most privy. You know, those are the ones that we're taught in RE and religious education, etc. Those are the ones that are more spoken about openly and extensively in philosophical discussions. But there are so many different religions, so many different belief systems and spiritual systems as well. So how can you, not knowing all of the different spiritual systems, all of the different interpretations of a creator, how can you be so certain of your position and your religion? That's just my way of thinking about it. I think maybe I just have a fear of being wrong or something.
No, but I feel you. I feel like, so we know the best way of predicting what religion someone is looking at the religion of their family, of their parents. So it touches on something you said. I feel like a lot of people don't have the chance to engage critically with the wealth of knowledge that is available from philosophers or from other religious texts. If someone was born in Australia and they're an Aboriginal, they might be likely to, or an Indigenous person, sorry, they might be likely to be shaman. If someone was born 2,000 years ago in ancient Greece or Rome, they might believe in Athena or Mars or those people there. So it's not really, in my head, it's very hard to find, especially as an atheist, it's hard to find what makes you, as a theist, believe that your religion is so correct. What differentiates you from people that believed in Thor and Valhalla and all these different things? It's all the same continuous, following the tenets that your parents and your forefathers, ancestors laid down for you, and kind of just continuing that. And I know a lot of theist people, obviously, they read their text, they engage critically. But I think that's one thing about atheism and agnosticism as well, where you kind of detach yourself from that, even if it's just for a moment, and you kind of read around the topics, read around different sources of inspiration and knowledge, and kind of use that to come to a conclusion. And I prefer, especially because there's some atheists who are anti-theist, and they just hate religion, maybe something bad has happened, maybe they associate it with something negative. Yeah, whatever about that. But when it's atheists use the scientific method, especially, and kind of test out things. Obviously, we can't even see the existence of a God. So if we try and test out different theories, test out different arguments, like the watchmaker argument, like if the Earth is so perfect, or if the human body is so perfect, is it testament that there's only a God? I feel like these are interesting arguments that a lot of atheists do explore, and. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's one thing that drew me to atheism as well.
I think what you mentioned about the likelihood of somebody adopting the belief of their family, etc., or the one that they grew up with, I think that's a valid one as well, because I think it just goes to show just how much cultural influence and external influence is involved in these sort of moral decisions and these and the formation of identities as well. And of course, I know people will say that, oh, I'm not this religion because of my family, but I feel like people speak often from this, people don't really contextualize the conditionality of their lives. Like I know for a fact that I feel it would be ridiculous for me to say that my belief is completely mine. I know that I have been influenced by so many different sources, so many different external things, that I think the ones to which I align with most are the ones which, to me, make the most sense. So obviously I said that I grew up in a Christian family. And when I was Christian, in my opinion, I was a good Christian, whatever that means. But to me, a good Christian meant that I would follow what was being prescribed to me in the Bible. I would always try to be a good example of what a Christian was. And I think that brought so many different conflicts in me, so many different battles of obviously trying to have this mentality and conduct myself in this type of way, but then the world that I'm in, the things happening, etc., all the discussions around me, all the different ideas and things like that. And I feel like, me personally, I feel that my main responsibility is to my curiosity and satisfying my curiosity. If I have questions, I've always been like an inquisitive person. I've always had questions. I think that's probably what led me down the path of journalism anyways. But to me, if the answer to my question isn't satisfactory, then it just can't run. And a lot of the answers that I was getting from religion and people of religion as well, who I perceived as knowing more than me and having more experience than me, didn't make sense. A lot of their answers were just...
weren't satisfying.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. It was just airy. Just a lot of, ambiguous, feel good sort of answers. It's just like, no, that's not what I asked.
Well, yeah, for me personally, I like what you said about questioning, because I think questioning is very important. I think as human beings, I believe that there's a God. I'm not an atheist, I'm a theist, as they call it. And I believe that, personally, when I questioned, because I'm very inquisitive and I like to look at the world and honestly understand, okay, but what makes me so sure? But when I look at the world, it always just points me back to God personally. When I just look, for example, even my body, when I look at just how intricate everything is, I'm a big documentary fan and I like to watch, David Attenborough and all these people. And so, for real.
Love it.
And then when I just see nature and I see just how intricate everything is and the balance of, I'm just like, this is something that has been created. It's by design. It didn't happen by happenstance. It required intelligence, because a car part, if you leave a car part by itself, it doesn't make itself. It requires intelligence to create it. And so when I look at my body, when I look at even the veins, I'm just like, no, clearly there must be someone, I must be by design. And if I'm by design, there must be a designer. So there must be a creator. That's on the God side of things. Now, in terms of Christian, because you can believe in different gods, that's another personal journey, because I grew up Christian, I grew up in a Christian household, but I went for a while I think 2019, 2018 times, I kind of just, went my own way, as they call it. And, I did things that was just, not really supposedly in line with my faith, if you call it what it is. And so I had that time of questioning and I had that time of challenging. And I think that even God doesn't mind that, because we're inquisitive creatures, we have intelligence. I don't think the Lord even minds us questioning him and him proving himself to be true. And also what you said is, I really like what you said about the information. There's so much information. There's so many things to know. And so, but then when I view it from the perspective of, because there's just so many things to know, and if this God created everything, even the galaxy within itself, he must be outside of time and matter. And so how can me be a creature, a person that's in time, in matter, be able to fully understand someone or God that's outside of it? And I don't think we're meant to. I don't think I'm meant to fully understand and to know every one of these facts. And so I kind of just accept it for what it is, that there is a God and he is in control of everything. And yeah, that's just pretty much where I'm at with it.
No, I agree with you. I feel like as a believer, every believer in their life comes to a point of realization where you can't know for sure. You talked about certainty. There's always an element of uncertainty, and part of being a believer of God is taking that leap of faith and really kind of just coming to terms with your own limitations of your five senses. And I'm quite a spiritual person, and I feel I'm also very much into physics, and I'm very much aware that there are possibilities of other dimensions outside the three that we can perceive. So I just feel like in my personal journey, I kind of like evaluated, like you said, like my body and nature, and I was just like, there has to be a design of the world. It is far too intricately complex and also interconnected. There's lots of repeating patterns. And so a combination of logic and also that leap of faith that I want to believe in a God. It wasn't that, oh, well, I might as well, you know, the signs are all there. It was more like this is something that I wanted to do. Personally, I did grow up in a religious household, but only later in life did I feel like religion had hit its true meaning in my life. And I think going down the path of spirituality and then joining it with religion, so using religion as a tool to explore my spirituality, was a way in which I reinforced its validity, personally.
So, yeah, I think it's been a great conversation so far. I think when you look at history and look at any civilization, you'll realize that men look to something greater than them. So I don't even think the conversation really is, does my God exist first? I think the first question is, there's something out there. Because every person looks to something that is bigger than them, right? The sky is bigger than you. If the tornado comes, it's greater than you. If the seas decide to burst the banks, it's greater than you. There is something greater than us as human beings. Now, we can talk about intellect, which is slightly different, but there is something bigger and greater than us in terms of force. That alone makes human beings go, that's why they worship the sun, that's why they worship the sea, that's why they worship the land, because something is greater than them and the power that they have within themselves. Now, me as obviously a Christian, I understand it's a different journey. I think you said that as well, which is really great. It's a different journey. I think the question that every human being asks in their life is, who am I and why am I here? And I think even if you don't believe in a God, you do believe in some type of God. And I say that in the sense of, let's say, for instance, take science, right? Let's take the Big Bang, which we all got told in school. We all got brainwashed with that. When I say brainwashed, in terms of we got taught that, sorry, apologies, wrong wording. We got taught that in school, right? No one questions it. But it's actually a theory. It's not fact. But no one questions it, right? Because that's what they tell you, that's what it is. But when you actually look into the details of it and look at the chances of this thing happening, the chance, I can't remember what the number was. It is crazy. It's so unique for this thing to happen, that we are on this earth and we are human beings on this earth that have this habitat that we're in right now being so perfect, that one would say that actually you're a believer, because the chances of that happening are crazy. So you're actually a believer. Whether it's a God that is a deity of a faith or religion, Abrahamic, as you were saying, which I love that point, which is true. There's so many different faiths out there, you know. So I think for any person questioning their position in terms of whether they're atheists or whether they're religious, I think the key question you need to ask yourself is, why am I here? Why now? Why am I the way I am? You know, and what is my purpose? Because I see in life that there is nothing without a purpose. Your shoes have nice shoes, by the way. Your shoes have a purpose. They're on your foot to protect the foot. You understand? So how, as human beings, can we not reason? No, as humans, we do reason this. We ask this question. I think it's a scary one, because I think, even for me, I grew up in a Christian home, and at 17, I said, you know what, I'm not going to lie to you, there's a lot of girls out there, and there's a lot of things I could be doing, so I'm going to go out there. That's the truth. I'm going to search, and I went to search. And I left the home because I was like, I didn't believe in that. just because I grew up in a home, I didn't actually believe in this faith that my parents had. So I left, I went out there and I did what I was doing, right? And then a crisis moment hits. And I think that's where every human being goes through, is a crisis moment. And you ask this question, life isn't maybe going the way I want it to go. What do I do next? And this is what I'm talking about, something greater than you, because you realize you can't control. So then the question is, who is controlling? Because that's what you ask yourself, like, okay, and that's why everyone does this thing where they look to the sky like, hey, is there something there? Is there not something there? What's going on, right? Because there's something that you can't control on this earth. So I think for me, I never try to convince anybody to move positions, because it's a personal journey, and you can't convince somebody. I can't convince you to become Christian. I can't convince you to believe there's a God. It doesn't happen like that. One has to go on their own personal journey, and it has to be a revelation to you, has to be revealed to you that, okay, this is me. The light bulb is hit now, and I can make that shift and that move.
So I think one of the interesting
Yes,
things
sir.
that I've heard from all three of the theists is, I think in general, I think people's understanding of when it comes to, if there's a claim, how do you confirm whether that claim is true or false, or what's the best means? And this is something that, you know, I did as a theist prior to becoming atheist, and it's a preset position where it's kind of what they call a type of, and I mean this in a respectful manner, but it's a type of fallacious reasoning where your starting position is an assumption that something is without substantiating the point. And what human beings have a tendency to do is they say, I am convinced of something, that being the starting point, and not confirming whether it is true or false.
Confirmation biases.
And then from there, building your argument. So it then has a circular argument. So when somebody puts to you, you know, why do you believe what you believe? Because I just do, without having that foundation level. And there isn't, the problematic thing that atheists find is that, well, I can only speak on my behalf, but I attempt to apportion my confidence to what we can evidence. And the fact that something, and another interesting thing that somebody raises, complexity and intricacies, but complexity isn't a hallmark of design. So if I have a design and I've designed a car and it's more complex and it takes me 10 steps to turn it on, a better design is obviously if it takes 1 step to turn it on. So simplicity is more of a hallmark of design rather
But it
than...
was still designed.
Yeah.
Pardon?
It still
But it was
required
still designed.
intelligence,
So,
correct?
so I'll come on to that point. The thing is theists assume that there is a design of the planet that we live on. And the issue with that, with the argument from intelligent design, is that it's simply this. The reason why we know that a building has a creator is because we have evidence of buildings being created. But we don't have any evidence for planets being created by a celestial being or by a deity. So the analogy, you can't generalize, you can't go from the general to the specific, or I think it's the other way around, from the specific to the gen. And one of the issues is that you can't say, because I know that the shoe was designed, then therefore God must have created all that we have. You have to evidence that point. And even when it comes to probability, the only way that we would know that that's probable is if we had other evidence of a planet. Even if we had one planet that we knew was created by another deity, then we could say, do you know what? There is a probability that this could have been designed. But
Isn't that the evidence, though? You just said the shoe. Like, you can't do the specific to the general, because if I design this shoe, then it means that how can I... It's like, isn't there... There's laws of life. So in terms of things don't create themselves. And so it's just like, so if this was designed, and then a building is designed, and then you can design the whole city, and obviously because the earth, I can't go outside of the earth. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not outside of the universe. I'm inside matter. I'm inside time. And so God, or what you perceive as God, has to be outside time and matter.
But do you have any evidence of anything existing outside of time and matter?
I can't because I'm inside.
So how do you then assume that? Because you're making an
Yeah,
assumption.
because of the laws of, because if everything around me has been created and requires intelligence,
I have had a spiritual experience.
Mad.
I'm going to sound like such a theist, but I feel like I have spiritual experiences all the
Time?
time. All
I'm
the
with you.
time.
I hear you.
I'm not sure if I look for them but there've been many times where I feel like they've really like hit home a lot, and it's usually, well, in particular, one experience was to do when my grandmother passed away, and I wasn't anywhere near her, but I could sense something, and I saw a shooting star, and I just felt in my heart that I'd like lost something, and that was my spiritual experience. And yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like an amalgamation of emotion, and you don't know why you're feeling the way you are, and kind of logic and reasoning kind of all jumps out the window, and it's kind of unexplainable in terms of words. What about you guys?
I have spiritual experiences all the time because my spiritual experience is the Holy Spirit, and so, like, for example, let me say this. For example, on a personal journey, on a personal experience, and everything, I used to live a certain lifestyle. Like I used to like be part of, I used to be part of like the homosexual lifestyle for a while, for like a couple of years. And then like 2018, 2019, I kind of opened that door and I went in and I just did what I needed to do with like a person that I knew. And then, but the spiritual experience was like, there was a conviction happening. Like I didn't know where it came from, and it wasn't because of like my mom, it wasn't because of nothing, it was like a spiritual thing. And then last year, like my father passed away, but then I was still out here doing what I need to do, but I was constantly being convicted. And then I finally kind of read the word, I gave my life to Christ on a personal level, and that's when I knew God for myself personally. And my spiritual experiences, it manifests physically, as in like, I'm being changed all the time. And it's very weird because it's just like, I always used to look at those people like, oh, what do you mean you're being changed? I'm just like, what? Like, but to me, my character, like the way I think is being changed all the time. And it's not because, and it's a spiritual thing, you know, and I feel it, like it's an actual thing. And that doesn't mean it changed, like, for example, my orientation or things like that, like temptation is still there. But it's just like that choice, and that Holy Spirit is just constantly there. And so that's what proves to me like the deity, because in the last question we were talking about, is there a God? Me, I was looking at logic, like you said, and looking at the world, but then the personal and the spiritual part of it happened from an actual experience that I feel every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me personally.
And I love what you just said.
Just to interrupt, could you clarify as to whether you actually felt homosexual beforehand?
Okay.
Oh, before, yeah, I've always had, like, I've always been like, I like both girls and guys, but I've always, like, yeah, I've had a liking to guys before, but I never, you know, acted on them until I was 21. And then when I turned 21, that's even when I like, because I was a Christian and everything, I wanted to save myself through marriage and everything. And 21, I even lost my virginity at 21. Like, I wanted to go through university and not be done out here. I was just like, nah, let me, you know, because, you know, there's a predicament when you go to uni, you go Christian, and you come out with body count of 25. But I was just like, nah, me and my sister was just, nah, let's stand for something. Like, let's at least try. Went through uni, did a whole thing. I'm just like, yes, I did good, but it wasn't because of God really too much. It was just more of like a thing. But then a personal experience happened to me, and then after I opened that door, I was being led almost like it wasn't right. Like, I don't know how to describe to you. Like, it's just like this was not what God had planned for me, and so I had to make that choice. And it wasn't an easy choice. It was very difficult, but that conviction, that spiritual, that Holy Spirit that's in you, will convince you and will convict you, and you just pick your side really. And I just picked my side. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
No, I appreciate it, bro. That's real. That's wisdom. And you know what? I love what you said as well, because I think when, because obviously we're talking from a Christian, I guess from a Christian perspective, that one of the spiritual experiences is the consciousness of choice, right? To do good or to do bad, or should we call it do evil or do good, whichever, you know. And that's obviously based upon our standards within our faith. And when you get that consciousness, you realize you're now alive, right? Because beforehand, you just did. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, you might feel something, but like you were saying, that was a consciousness of, I think we've mentioned it here as well, with what you've experienced from your parents. They've told you, this is right, this is wrong. You've gone to church, this is right, this is wrong. But then when it happens to you and you have your experience and you come and connect with the Holy Spirit, it's like you suddenly become aware of choice.
Yeah.
And I almost liken it to this room. You become aware of darkness too. You're aware that, "Oh, I didn't know I was that dark." Like, honestly, this is my realist thought. When I come to Christ the first time, I said to myself, I realized, I really should have played more in the field before I came here. And that's the darkness that was coming
hear
to me.
so much what you're saying right now, bro.
see what I'm saying?
I hear exactly what you're saying.
Because you become conscious, right? You just suddenly realize, I could have been darker. Why didn't I go darker?
You know?
You know what I mean?
Why didn't I even have more quote-unquote fun?
Yes, more fun.
Because, you know, I held myself, but then now I have this choice, and now I'm in a space where it's just like, I know that I see this thing for what it is, and it's just like, you know.
That's really interesting. So you guys are happy with where you are. You're more than happy with where you are, but you still have low-key regrets about things that you wish you
Not
did
regret,
well?
it's just like, it's a more of a thing of like, it's not, do you know what, it comes from it's not exactly, it's not actually a good thing to say, to be honest, but it's just more of like a play on like...
Yeah. No, being honest is that it runs through your head sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
I'm aware of my darkness. That's what I'm trying to say.
It's almost like being married, like you get married to someone, and then sometimes you think like, I wish
I played in the field.
do you know one's there, like, body count. But yeah, so, and also, I think that, sorry, I lost my point, go on.
No, it's fine, it's fine.
No, I think, to say to your point, obviously my spiritual experience, I remember when I first gave my life to Christ, and I love clubbing. Like, that was me. I was up and down everywhere in UK, yeah? And that was one of the hardest things to give up, right? So when I gave my life to Christ, it was outside of McDonald's, yes, guys, because, you know, I worked there for a few years, you know, flipping them burgers and stuff. And, I got to a point where I was looking at, I was standing outside McDonald's and I said to the Lord, this is not it. This is not life. I'm not living. Talk to me, you know? If you're really there, like, show me something, do you know what I mean? If not, I'm going to continue, and I'm going to continue my life, right? So I had my experience. And I remember I went to the club maybe some months after, and really, really weird. I was enjoying myself. I'm not going to lie to you. I shouldn't have been there, but I was enjoying myself, right? You know, I'm hearing Tutu Bashment, Tutu Dancehall coming on, you know what I'm saying? I'm winding my skin off. No different to today, to be honest. But winding myself off and everything like that. And then I walked through some doors because I was going to go get some water because, you know, I don't buy drinks at the club, guys. I, you know, go with H2O. And then I got to the bar and then I get the water tap as well because you don't really buy a bottle. Tap as well. And then as I'm drinking the water, I turn around and I look and there's this fine babe, right? Fine babe, just proper fine.
From 1 to 10, how much?
Oh, that's a 9.5 solid. 9.5 solid. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Just fine.
That was a sign.
It was proper things, you know. I said, David Bathsheba moment. Okay. And then I saw her, but then suddenly I could see her and then I could see her soul.
Oh.
That's the best way I could describe it, right? And what I could see was that the person wasn't happy. I could see, and then I thought, oh, it's just one person. And I looked around the club and I could see everybody. We're all suffering, right? Some of us are merry, we look merry on the outside, but inwardly our souls were like, I could see that we were, I don't want to say tainted, more like, as if we're chained, right? And I was like, Lord, what is this? What am I seeing right now? Because I'm not gonna lie to you, that was a good picture and you've taken it away. What are we seeing? And what he was saying to me at that moment is that you're seeing people for what they are. You see, when you look beyond this, right, you might get excited, your body's in shape, whatever, but look at the heart of the person. Where are they? You know what I'm saying? How are they feeling? You know what I'm saying? So when I started to see that, I said, whoa. I mean, I didn't stop clubbing, straight after that, but I'm just saying it still opened my eyes that actually we are spiritual beings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're more than just the vessels that we see here and now.
And this didn't come from you. It came from something like my choice didn't come from me trying to be good.
That's the point.
It really was not one of them ones there. I wasn't righteous. Like, okay, now I'm going. It's nothing. Me, I was done out here. But like, it's a spiritual thing. That's the best way I can explain to you, because how can somebody live a certain lifestyle and then completely change it, especially when you still have affections. You know, there was still someone I had an affection for, but I still denied myself. Why? Where did that come from? It didn't come from because I just thought I was that good. It generally came from a spiritual conviction that it was just like, no, you need to change, and I have a better line for you.
There was 4 things, I had to remember them.
Something like that. Reverse as well.
I had to make a little list. So there's 4 things I took error with, respectfully. And I loved everything that you guys said. The first thing I wanted to talk about was I had an inverse experience to you, Isra. So you said your grandma passed, and that led you to closer to your faith, right?
Not necessarily. I felt like that was a spiritual experience. So I felt the first time like a connection. I would say that that wasn't probably like the defining. Unlike you guys, where you felt like you had to change. I felt like when I had spiritual experiences, it was more kind of like a confirmation.
Like a sign.
More like thumbs up from the God. Like it was kind of like that.
So for me, I think I was 14, maybe 13. I was going to Pentecostal church. My mum was taking me there. So my head was filled with all this, like, pray and anything can be yours. I was praying for PS4s, PS3s, or whatever it was. I was praying to get, the girl I was crushing on at what, secondary school, year 7, year 8, I don't know where it was. But I was praying frantically. Nothing was happening. Maybe the stuff I was asking for, if you guys would say. But I remember, I'll never forget when my grandma died. I was 14, and a lot of stuff was happening. Like, the income was low in the household. Like, people were struggling. And I'll never forget just sitting by the windowsill and waiting for a sign to say that, can you hear me? This mystical creator, like, is there something there, etc., etc. And I waited. Nothing happened. And that was one of the key moments in my life that led me to, why am I talking to this guy when I could be doing practical things? So the other thing that that memory was triggered by when you said that, and that led me to also think there's the concept of the rain dance. So a lot of our ancestors, I'm African, I'm Nigerian, a lot of our ancestors used to dance for rain. They used to dance for the harvest. They used to pray and talk to the stars and et cetera, et cetera. And when you guys mention your spiritual experiences, respectfully, to me, it sounds like when they would dance for rain and the rain would actually come.
I agree.
But a lot of the times they danced for rain and they died because there was a drought. Loads of times. A lot of people, when there's a war, even with the England game, people were praying for England to win.
Was Shalini not even doing spells on Bayoko and pulled his neck?
You know what I'm saying? And in Nigeria, I remember the National Association of Witches one time tried to organize a collective spellcraft.
There's an association.
Yeah, there is.
Wow.
You have to understand, these guys are organized now, guys.
They've unionized.
The socialism is winning. But what was I gonna say? It didn't do anything. And a lot of the time when religious people say to me, and I can't even question it because you guys have said you've had this experience. But a lot of the time you say, when I hear a religious person saying something like, I felt I was touched. I can't say anything to you because you felt like you were touched. But you genuinely could have had something completely coincidental. Maybe you wanted a job, you prayed for it, you got the job. Congratulations, you worked hard, you deserved it. There's nothing there altering the stakes in your favor. And that led me to the third point I was gonna say, is that when I feel like religion is archaic, I feel like it belongs in a different time. Maybe in this 15th century when there was wars, there was volcanoes, there was all that kind of stuff going on, and no one knew what is a volcano. Is this not just hellfire bursting from the? Is this just hellfire? Maybe then religion would be useful because it's like, I don't understand this. I'm probably gonna die at 30. Maybe it's helpful to believe there's an afterlife, and it's helpful to understand what's going on. I'm dancing for rain, and the rain is coming. It all makes sense. We have intelligence now. We have like research. We have science. We have all these different things. Some of them are theories. There was an error you said it before about a theory being a theory. A theory in the scientific method means it's been tested to the point where it's beyond, like, it's not like someone said, gravity doesn't exist, or gravity exists, and it's just like, That's what we do now. The Big Bang Theory is amongst one of the most frequently tested by all different mechanisms of the scientific profession.
Through the process of
How do
You
you,
know what I'm
how do you
saying?
test that when you can't measure that?
You can. There's
Your whole
things like...
concept of religion is based around something.
That's
you
what I'm
can't-
saying. You're a believer like me. That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
No,
I
don't
feel
do
like
that.
atheists. I feel like
Because when you
atheists
believe
have
in
just
it,
as much
do
faith
you,
as
do you
Christians,
believe
though.
your car, I don't know if you drive, but do you believe your car can do up to 100 miles per hour? Is it just because you've seen it? Is it because you don't know it? You're just gambling. I believe it can. I'm faith. Or is it because you've seen the technology behind it that can prove that it usually can do that?
Mechanisms.
Can I just interject
Sorry
for
to-
just
No,
a
you got
moment?
it. I got you, bro. No,
So
you got it.
I think what's happening here is we're conflating a lot of issues. Like, so there's certainty, there's faith, and there's confidence. And I think I'm not attempting to speak on behalf of everybody, but my position, especially as an atheist, is that faith isn't a reliable pathway to being able to test or determine whether something is true or false. Because if faith can lead me to both the right answer and the wrong answer. So I'll give you an example. If you say that you're Christian and you're a Muslim, you both use faith. Both of you can't be right.
Yeah.
So if faith is the tool by which you're saying you have the conviction or you feel, that's obviously not a reliable pathway to obtaining what the truth is, because you both can't be right. Somebody
But
has to be.
religions aren't exclusivist. Like, monotheist religions aren't like exclusive. Like, we don't. There is an element of like pluralism, religious pluralism, like within many religions. So, as, for example, in Islam, that we do believe that people, followers of the book, are onto like the right path, and as long as you do good deeds, that you can go to heaven. And I just wanted to touch on what you were saying. I feel like that. Sorry, remind me again. What were you saying?
No, so I think what I wanted to go through was 3 points, and it was to do with faith, it was to do with confidence, and it was to do with certainty. And it was the points that people were alluding to. And I suppose what I was trying to say, and I was just using it as an example, but maybe somebody believes that Zeus, or, you know, there's many gods, somebody believes in a various religion. And what I'm saying is, if each individual who is a theist that believes in these 1,000 gods, obviously not everybody can be correct. And I'm saying if the tool that religious people are using is faith, then if faith can lead you to both the correct answer and the incorrect answer, then it's not a reliable pathway to obtaining what is correct or incorrect.
But it's not a solid framework. It's a versatile, adaptable framework. And I mean, part of the reason why I call myself a Muslim is because I generally feel like there are many ways to get to the truth and good. And when I said previously that, you know, you can use religion as a tool, I meant that in terms of like self-development. So that's like self-actualization, you know, finding your purpose and trying to live your best and true life, spiritually, and also in the physical realm as well. And I think it's necessary. I disagree with you, because I do think it's necessary in today's age that yes, we do have intelligence, we do have technology, but if you look at like today's society, we're more depressed than ever. We are addicted to social media. We are trying to fill voids within us which are seemingly unfillable. And I think more people are turning to spirituality rather than religion, is because they are, you know, they feel unfulfilled in daily routines of life, and they are looking for answers which perhaps, you know, growing up they weren't, you know, taught how to find. And yeah, I think there are many paths which lead to, you know, developments, like spiritual development, as in all aspects of a human being. And I think that it's your duty as an individual to find whatever tool that is and use it to become the best version of yourself. And that's going to very much depend on, you know, where you grew up, who were your parents, what information you had available. But fundamentally, I think what unites atheists, and I think even theists and people of all religions, is that they're all on their journey to find truth and to find meaning, and to find
But
goodness.
this is the the issue is that.
Can I actually ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, go
That's all right, because you talked about faith, and it's just like, personally, I believe, like, for example, like, so do you not think that faith, you said like faith, you know, it's not a reliable thing because you can both end up in the right or in the wrong, not everybody can be correct. But don't you have faith all the time? In terms of just like, I think, for example, believing that we were like tadpoles or something like that, or there was like dinosaurs millions of years ago, honestly, from someone who's never been in the West, sounds very mad. The Lord. I'm playing.
This is spiritual experience, guys. I told you, you haven't eaten.
Welcome.
When really, it's just a light going faulty.
No, it's a sign. It's a sign. I promise. I faith.
You see, the Lord is
I'm
working
happy
already.
no one has epilepsy.
The Lord is working.
You know, as in...
And he knew you didn't have epilepsy. So he's working. You see?
No, this is faith. The Lord works in mysterious ways. I
Amen.
promise.
Well, but that's evidence, though. Because you're asking for evidence, but evidence, depending on what courtroom you're in. If you're in a legal courtroom, I have to prove these things legally. But if you're in a spiritual courtroom, then evidence is based upon what we were talking about, which is, if I saw that, that's my evidence.
So
Like,
the-
no comment.
so
So
this-
that's on you
that's the
anyways.
point.
It was on you.
So
Yeah,
this
it
is
was
the
on you.
point
Sorry,
I was addressing is that, and this is why I wanted to touch these three things. Is what you're asking me is, do I have a belief or do I have faith? And this is the thing that it's important to kind of to address. So I apportion my confidence to what reality tells me comports to what I can see and what I can test. So for example, if I have a phone in my pocket, even a light or something that goes faulty, the reason why I know that it's not working is because an electrician can come along or a technician. So for example, I don't know that my phone is going to turn on, but the last 99 times that I've turned it on and off, it has turned on and it has turned off. So I'm apportioning my confidence. Well, I've got a reasonable confidence level that my phone will turn on. What theists are saying is, I don't have any evidence, but I just have a conviction, and I can't tell you whether it's reasonable or not, but I just think that there is.
But isn't the conviction is the evidence?
Can
It
I make
It's a
one
combination
point?
of evidence.
Yeah, like,
and
to
opinion.
me,
It's a
you know.
combination.
And this is the issue is people have an acute understanding of what evidence actually is. Because if we were to go, I'm not saying it has to go to a courtroom because there's different standards of proof and whatnot, but there is, at a very foundational level, there's a claim, and the burden of proof is on the theist to substantiate that claim is a reasonable claim to hold. And the fact that I might feel that my wife is cheating on me, I might feel that somebody is trying to steal, but I might not be reasonable in my judgment. So what we try to do is get something that is reliable, e.g. a scientific method, and go in relation to what you were saying about evolution and things like that. All the evidence that we have in terms of human beings and life and how things have started seems to suggest that these all occur through natural processes. We don't have any evidence to support the idea or notion that it was an external deity. The fact that I might find it hard to believe that or comprehend doesn't mean that I am reasonable in my belief that this is just too complicated, because all the evidence that we have seems, and it's tentative.
Yeah, because like the evidence, for example, for the evolution,
It's limited.
it's very limited. For
It's
example,
not
for like
there.
for like
It's not-
for example,
it's
like
not
tadpoles
there.
and
Correct, it's
everything,
not
and
there.
also like about the thing about the conviction, like your wife is cheating and stuff like that. When I talk about the Holy Spirit conviction, it's more than just a feeling. It's a continuous, I don't know how to describe it. It's a continuous thing, and it's also not singular. It's something that I've seen happen to people in my life. It's something that millions of other people feel.
So my
And
question
it's
is,
just like,
I'll let him.
The only way to experience happiness is to experience pain.
Should I stay or should I go?
I'm gonna stay.
It's a tight one.
interested.
This one,
I'm not sure.
I'll do this.
Them was
Just
like I'm in between.
one leg out, one leg's out. Just
This is a tricky one, but I do think, so there's two answers in the sense that I don't think you should have to endure pain to be happy, but I think from a logical standpoint, there needs to be a reference point as to what pain is so that you do understand what happiness is. But I don't think that human beings should have to endure pain in order to be happy. But I think my position is in order to know what cold is, you would have to have an appreciation for what hot is. But yeah, that's my kind of understanding.
I feel you. I think even in my head, what I'm using as a reference point is like, I love it. Welcome to the winning side. But
Because I don't understand these questions. It's always like a...
in my head, what I'm using as a reference point is like ignorance, right? So when I remember the other day I asked my mum, how did you like get anywhere in like the 80s and 90s before phones were that common? Like you would just, because I'd be late to places. So what, you just go there and then you assume the person you're meeting up with will just be there. What if they're not there? You know, like what do you do? And I remember asking her, she was like, I actually can't remember. I can't remember what we did. And I feel like when that as a reference point, like using the lack thereof, using the utter ignorance that we had before things like the internet became widespread, where you can go on TikTok and find out all the biggest stocks popping right now, where before you would have had to go to like a financial consultant or whatever exactly. I think that we live in a world of so much expanded knowledge and experience. So I think that is a good reference point for, but I'm still on the fence on this question, but like in terms of like you needing to experience pain to know what real happiness is, in the same way that you need to know ignorance to kind of comprehend the scale of just how vast our world has changed in terms of knowledge. I think that makes sense. I think we, like for us as well, I feel like we're Gen Z, well, some of us are Gen Z, we're digital natives, you know? And like, so we've grown up with things like the internet all taken for granted. I don't think like my younger sister, who's 17, can fully comprehend that even compared to my own lifestyle, like the advantages she has with knowledge and opportunity. So hopefully that is an answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a bit on the fence about this one, clearly. But I think that there are obviously universal laws. So obviously there's the law of correspondence, the law of attraction, the law of causality. There's so many different universal laws, right? And all of these things are essentially stating that one thing can't exist without the other. So obviously in the context of this conversation, can happiness exist? Can you really appreciate happiness unless you've understood pain? Or, right, that's the, yeah? I feel like you don't necessarily need to understand or have experienced pain in order to experience happiness, but I feel like in order to be able to quantify happiness and push it on, because everything exists on a spectrum, right? So in order to be able to truly comprehend the scale of your happiness or the scale of your pain, there needs to be some sort of referential example, a referential experience to which you can look and say, wow, you know when like you're crying or like you're in a lot of pain. So like I lost my sister when she was 9 years old. I think I was 16 at the time. And that was the most painful thing that I had ever experienced. It wasn't just a physical, it wasn't just an emotional thing. It was a physical thing. It manifested in so many different ways. And I think what that made me do was look back at the times where I was with her, where we were together, where we were enjoying each other's company, where we were happy. And that helped me contextualize where that happiness of us being in each other's company kind of was on the scale of happiness and agony, you know? So I don't think that necessarily you need to have experienced the other in order to understand that you're feeling it's opposite, but I think sometimes it does help to have that sort of referential experience to be able to, like I said, quantify it, you know? So it's always when you're in a position of pain or like really serious pain that you start to appreciate the opposite a lot more. But that's not to say that you didn't appreciate what you had. It's just that you didn't have anything to compare it to that would be able to allow you to fully appreciate its presence or absence, if that makes sense, if I articulate myself well.
I feel like you have.
Yeah. I don't think it's really black and white like that, to be honest.
It's not.
Yeah.
You know what, like, so I feel like, you know, I think I must have accidentally, I made a mistake. I actually agree with this, so I'm on this side in terms of like, the only way to experience happiness is to experience pain. And it's like, yes, it's for example, look at this room. I know the light is on because it's on. If I turn it off, I'm in darkness. And so for when I turn it on, I'm in light. And I use it for my own personal experience in terms of like my Christian experience is I did live in darkness. And then when the Holy Spirit came and Jesus showed me that light, I now know what that means. I know the difference. I can feel the difference in my walk. I can feel the difference in the way I think and just in my overall life. And so that experience of kind of coming out of the faith, that experience of being in darkness made me appreciate the light in my personal faith that was with Christ. And also happiness. Personally, I feel like there's a difference between happiness and joy. Because I personally believe that joy is a fruit of the Spirit. And happiness is basically what's happening around you. And that's why you can buy happiness, but you can't buy joy, because joy, you can be a poor person. I personally believe you can even be downtrodden, but that joy of the Lord is something that can't be explained. You still have that peace, you still have that joy because it's of the Lord.
I feel like that's semantics. That's all semantics and shades of meaning and stuff.
Okay,
like
that's your opinion. That's cool.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
When you two said that, I was making laugh.
No, but yeah, so I actually agree. Like, I feel like you do need to experience, maybe not, but
Do you think experiencing and appreciating are the same thing,
They're
though?
not.
Because when I
That's the
first heard the
thing.
question, I think, technically speaking, I mean, if you've ever seen a baby, like a
that's what I
young
was thinking.
child, they laugh for no reason. Like, they live the most pampered life. They have gone through minimum suffering. The most suffering they feel is slight discomfort
They're
when they wet
wanting and stuff.
themselves.
that's true.
But they will laugh, and they will laugh like from their core, and they will just like exude with happiness and joy. I would even say pure sheer ecstasy sometimes. You see some kids
Kids are on crack,
they
honestly,
get so
naturally.
happy when you show them a Kinder Surprise. So I think, you know, perhaps the human disposition is happiness, that we are, you know, we're species that want to be happy, and, you know, it's our really complicated, overworking brains which cause us to think about the stresses in life, and it brings us down. Perhaps our spirit, if you do believe in a spirit, is, you know, one which wants to excel and uplift. So yeah, that's why I disagree.
I vehemently disagreed, I'm not going to lie to you. And the reason why is what you said about the baby stuff, and that was literally my first thought. But it's not only that, but when we talk emotions versus feelings, I believe emotions are our natural reaction to certain stimuli, right? And then we talk about feelings, which is the interpreted meaning, which is what you were explaining, that you have an experience, and that then governs how you appreciate whether it's pain or whether it's joy or whether it's happiness. But there are natural stimuli. If I gave you, if like, for instance, the baby one was a really interesting one. I like that one because it's like, that one hasn't been touched. There's no pain that person's felt or anything that's happened. That is reacting to a natural stimuli, and that child understands happiness. Do you know what I mean? In that moment. I think a lot of our life, though, is governed by our experiences. It's governed by what we've learned. It's governed by the knowledge that we have. So yes, we do put the juxtaposition of how would I feel happiness without experiencing the pain? How do I? But I think the key word to use here is how do I appreciate?
Appreciate, that's it.
Like, you know what I'm saying? How do I appreciate £100 when I was eating beans on toast beforehand? I know I can appreciate that. I'm now happy through my appreciation, but is that the experience? What's the natural reaction of the human body to certain things that happen in their life? And I think that's the emotion that's base loaded versus the feelings which are governed by your experience on earth and what you
emotions are so complex as well. It's a spectrum. Like you don't just feel like happiness and sad. It's not either or. There's so many. There's like a whole rainbow in between of emotions and feelings. And yeah, that's sorry.
One thing I'm thinking of is, so I have a point, but it's kind of double-sided. So I feel like there's a point. So yeah, I'm on the side, I agree that you need to experience pain to know what real happiness is. But sometimes, now with retrospect, I'm thinking of people that have experienced traumatic things, like things like abuse, like all kinds of like horrible things. And the first thing, and sometimes people are like, oh, this thing made you stronger, but sometimes it really doesn't. It really just chipped what was, you know, something beautiful. And sometimes that chip never really recovers. And I'm like, you didn't need to learn that lesson.
Yeah,
To appreciate life.
Yeah, you didn't need to learn it. You could have just had a great life,
Yeah.
and you know, you'd still be.
But this,
joyous.
That's the thing.
This is the point I was saying is
But
that
I was gonna say the other half.
yeah.
But the other half is obviously like when you've experienced suffering. So let's say even something like democracy. Like a lot of our parents have come from countries where there's been dictatorships, all kinds of like oppressive systems. We sometimes we take democracy for granted. Probably not everyone here has voted consistently. I've missed some elections, but it's like so for some of the people that fought and died for these hard-won rights, whether it's democracy or freedom to walk around without soldiers drilling you down or whatever, you know, it's something you can fully experience the happiness of, you can be content with. So it's kind of double-sided, if you see what I'm saying. But sorry, Will.
No, literally, I was just on the tail end of what you were saying is that I don't think there's a need to endure certain types of pain in order to appreciate a certain point.
Because I feel like that not only romanticizes unnecessary suffering, but also justifies it a lot of the time as well. Like, oh, I needed to go through this to appreciate. No, you didn't. You didn't need to come and suffer. My purpose in this life, I always say, my purpose in this life is to enjoy. My purpose in this life is not to suffer. I'm not going to romanticize suffering. I'm not going, and I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where, if I'm in a position where I feel like I don't need to be and it's bringing me unnecessary wahala, I'll just step back from it. I'll remove myself from it. Obviously, there are a lot of people who aren't able to take themselves away from that situational suffering. But I feel like, obviously speaking in the context in which we're speaking, and having in mind the kind of people we're talking about, I feel like it's important to not romanticize in this discussion, to not romanticize and justify suffering and pain because happiness is a reward. Happiness isn't a reward. I don't feel like happiness should be a reward. I feel like people should have what you guys were saying, have that kind of like, about in reference to the babies, should have that baseline enjoyment, that baseline peace. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying?
Contentment,
yeah.
Religion is a scheme to exploit individuals financially.
Oh, it definitely isn't. Definitely not.
Okay, I think I'll just start by saying that some of the way, obviously I understand the way these questions need to be phrased, etc., but I feel like they're statements of absolutes and there's nuance to it. And so even though I'm sat here, obviously, to state that, like, I agree, I'm also not convinced that is
you agree
like
to some degree.
Yeah, to some degree. There's obviously, like, conditions and stuff like that. But in the context, obviously, of the financial exploitation of religion, I think that this was... this is just like, that is like a continuum that you see in throughout religion, be it from the 14th century, 13th century, 19th, 18th, all the way to obviously the 21st century. I feel like the way that speaking on the fact that religious buildings, so like churches and things like that, they are not taxed, right? So I was reading somewhere that a lot of the money that is donated to the Catholic Church because it's not taxed, goes towards bribery and paying lawyers, etc., and paying off families of people of the children who they have abused and settling court cases. So a lot of the donations that people are giving to these establishments and these institutions go towards justifying and alleviating the responsibility of these religious figureheads.
The accountability.
And the accountability. So I feel like financially there is it's never really made sense to me personally. I think this was one of the qualms that I had with religion. This idea that you're supposed to be worshipping this metaphysical entity, right? This deity that has no physicality, right? But I have to do so through this building. Not necessarily have to, because obviously not every religious person attends a physical place for worship. But obviously, talking about those who do, this idea that you have to go to this physical place to worship this metaphysical entity, and I have to pay to contribute in maintaining this physical building that isn't really necessary, because I see it as like a middleman in my communication, in my line of communication and addressal to this deity that I believe in. To me, it's never really made sense. I think the whole idea of tithes and shaming people as well, that happens a lot. You get people who are being shamed into because of like little donations. You have people, obviously even it's their autonomy, it's their decision to make, but you have people who are literally giving almost all of the money that they have into for prayer, their pastor or their imam, etc. Obviously, the ones who are very money hungry, who are greedy in that way, and gluttonous with money, you have them saying, "Oh, give this money, give this amount, and this will happen," and acting as if there's a causality and a causal link between the amount you donate and how much of your finances you sacrifice or invest, if some people want to consider it as that, into their place of worship. But at the end of the day, there's no causal link between how much you donate and the results that you're going to get.
Shayo, I'm born.
I feel like, yeah, go ahead, jump in.
No, because even from the beginning I said I believe religion is, well, from a Marxist perspective, so Karl Marx, obviously economist, philosopher, great thinker, like he said religion is the opiate of the people. So when he said that, it basically meant that people are suffering out here, and religion is one of the tools used to kind of keep people just like, oh, you can work hard, you be a good person, you don't have to kill your masters, and in the afterlife you'll get some, like you go to heaven, you enjoy, you live up life with God and stuff. But like it's a tool used to keep people down, and the reason, so I wanted to break it down into history and present. History, I feel like religion has been used to exploit people financially. I think the example used of the Catholic Church, and churches in general, is a great example. Like the Catholic Church, if you look at any church from here to Rome as well, gold stained windows, these buildings were so expensive to produce. Where did the money come from? What is their job, these preachers?
Symbolic.
Their job is to exploit people and take in their money and use it to build these lavish celebrations of their faith. And even on the bus here, I was reading an article in the FT about the Vatican, like renovating a giant apartment in the middle of London with swimming pools and stuff and having parties. And these are like people that are supposedly men of God. And I feel like it's the same in other religions as well. And you can just look at where religions have been tied to the establishments of any country. And who are the people at the top? Why do they have so much money? I think we should think critically. And even present, what you described about is called prosperity theology. So it's kind of like a capitalist version of Christianity, where you go to, especially in Africa and South America, where you go to these churches, you invest your 20p, it becomes £2, your £2 becomes £20, whatever. Like it's gambling, isn't it? And it exploits people that are already suffering, they're the downtrodden, and it uses their desire to be better and gives them this this capitalist vision of, pray, do this stuff, invest in us, and look at the rich pastor driving a Hummer
Maserati.
or a Maserati, or a private jet, and you can be like this, and it's disgusting because it's capitalist and because it exploits people who are deeply in pain and deeply suffering. And it's I think it should be abolished across the world, and especially in Africa, because I don't understand how people that are the most religious and the most poor don't understand what's the correlation.
It's really interesting as well that you even mentioned that.
Yeah, so I think the issue that I take with it the most, I think it's two things, is that there's other secular societies or humanist societies where they do a lot of good for communities, and I don't see any difference in why they shouldn't be able or entitled to, certain tax exemptions. Maybe if they're a charity, but across the board, I don't think it's fair and equivocal. And I think the second thing is the fact that somebody thinks if I give money, then that would get me closer to this deity. I think that is problematic because a lot of the people who are giving their money away are people who are in less fortunate positions.
I agree.
And they're being abused, and there isn't any evidence to suggest that when somebody gives their money away, the metaphysical hasn't been proven to exist. So even the idea or the notion that you giving your money away will get you to a metaphysical place, e.g. heaven, where you'll reap the rewards of, can't be substantiated. So I think it's very unfair when people who, and it's not just people but I'm using this as an example, but somebody in a village who has nothing, and that thing called religion is the one thing that is being used to manipulate them. It might sound like I'm being a bit harsh, but I do accept that, you know, religion does do some good. You know, some people make friends,
like your government,
extended family, and I'm not saying religion is bad, but I think this aspect of it has to be regulated and something has to be done so that people don't get abused financially.
Yeah,
But
and people have to pay for the crimes that they commit, and it needs to be brought to light, especially within the religious community. I 100% agree. I feel like in order to, like, prevent certain things from happening in the future and certain things from carrying on, we need to, you know, as part of believers in our communities, we can't just like close our eyes and shut our ears and be like, this isn't happening. We need to come to terms with this and ask why. Why are these individuals, why are these leaders behaving in the way that they do, and how can they be held accountable? I disagreed with the statement just because I think the religion, when it was set up by Jesus or Muhammad or Siddhartha Gautama, like whoever originated the religion, I don't believe it was their intention. I think they were spiritually enlightened people who wanted literally the best for humankind, and I don't feel like it, you know, the institutions we have today are at all representative of the kind of future that these amazing people had in mind at all. So I don't think it's, you know, it's religion itself, it's the religious leaders who are the tyrants who need to be held accountable.
That's why I said in the beginning, I didn't really agree completely with it, because it's a statement of absolute. Yeah. There's obviously a lot of, like I said, nuances within like religion, etc., and the whole tithes and donations and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, these people, even though there is an element of exploitation from on the part of the religious figurehead and the leader, the person who is giving that money is not being forced to. No, obviously, exactly. there's nuances within that as well. The people who are being emotionally blackmailed into doing it. You know, trying to quantify your belief. If the more you believe, the more you should give, etc. You have that kind of narrative. You have people who are giving more because they can give more. Like I said, there's a lot of nuance to it. And I think that obviously these like I think in the earlier conversations, one of the earlier conversations, we were talking about how the church, I'm not going to say the church because then it's just kind of like the whole thing, but there were churches and mosques who were giving and donating to like Grenfell and things like that. So the churches, more charitable and more genuine churches and more charitable, more genuine mosques and more charitable synagogues, etc., have always do kind of like who do abide and follow those the charity element of their religion. Well done to you, because you don't necessarily like have to. It's just like a moral obligation, if that makes sense. You get people who obviously will abuse that, but then on the other hand, you'll also get people who are using.
That's not, again, Who is behind this? Because there's a key denomination in all this.
No, that's the thing.
It's
I think
people.
it's
individuals.
but we're not.
There's
I
no
don't- I don't
government.
think
No,
it's-
I don't think it is
Yeah, I think it is.
necessarily. I
What
think
you're
what it
describing
is.
people doing what people do best.
No,
Which is
but
like
then again, you're
cheat,
okay,
skill.
but you
This
can't
is a
now
human
compartmentalize the
No,
Can
wait,
I add-
let me
It's just
wait,
a
hold
tool
up,
that they
hold up.
use to do that.
Do you know what?
because it's a
let me
culture.
just-
It's
let me
actually
just
a
land.
culture.
It's a culture, but it's just
amongst them.
another tool to
Let's
do that
sound
to people.
I feel like where human beings are going to do what human beings do. And so it's just, for example, fire. Let's use an example like fire. Fire can be a wonderful thing. Fire can, light up your home, it can cook your food, it can keep you warm, it can actually bring life. But at the same time, someone can use that same fire and burn your house down. Does that mean that the fire is evil? No, it's the human being that's using it. And so with that statement where it says, is religion a tool to, blind people? It can be, because human beings use it all the time. They use it all the time, and people use all kinds of things. I feel like the whole world is trying to exploit. London is trying to exploit me. It's so expensive here out here. Do you know what I'm saying?
Tax haven.
So it's just like, I think it's a dangerous thing to kind of say that the institution. I personally believe that there's even a difference between religion and faith. Like I won't even call myself religious. I'm just a person that believes the Bible. I'm a Bible-believing child of God. You know
Why
what I'm
is
saying?
that?
Can I-
Why is that?
And
Can I
because
ask a question?
because
Yeah.
for example,
Do you believe everything in the Bible, by the way?
yes, and
Every single thing.
every single thing, and it's because, for example, with Catholicism, is the way that they believe and the things that they believe in, their doctrines, is actually extremely different to the doctrine that I personally believe and my church believes. And so that's what I'm saying. It's religious is a kind of like a big umbrella term.